Okay, so a West Australian has competed in the New South Wales State Championships. That West Australian is me. Do we need to compete more interstate, more nationwide competition? Should we be entering behind enemy lines to get more comps under our belt throughout the year? We chat about all that and the fantasy of having an Australian karate league and potentially creating a clear-cut national ranking system. Nathan also has some big ideas he would like to share with us about an ideal competition circuit within Australia. All of that follows after our talented friend, Good Fortune.
I think you got it that time.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
John's been practicing.
Yeah, how is it going?
It's okay. I haven't found the optimal size triangle.
You've got more than one triangle.
Yeah. I went to the shop and then, I don't know.
Do they do multiple size triangles?
The local triangle shop.
I think the thickness of a triangle matters.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Welcome back to the Kaizen Culture Pod, where we're keeping the conversation moving within Australian karate. If you're hearing this, you obviously know where to get your podcasts from: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, but you can watch us over on YouTube, our YouTube channel. So look at our lovely faces, talk to your screen for a little bit. As always, please let us know your thoughts and opinions and anything you'd like us to chat about. Send us an email at kaizenculture.info@gmail.com or even sign up to our mailing list on our website, kaizenculture.org.
Especially this one with the sending in ideas, because we're going to propose some pretty crazy ideas for this one. And as our catchphrase goes, it's moving the conversation forward. So converse with us, tell us your ideas on what we're about to talk about, because we're going to be fantasizing this episode, aren't we?
Yeah, this is less factual and more dreaming and talking, but it's a poignant topic, right? It's something that we all want to see more of and more competition within Australia. Like, we just have our Australian Open and our Nationals, 2 comps a year where it's the highest level within Australia, just not counting your Oceania every 2 years. But, we still have our state championships in each state that go on, the local events, and arguably they're great tournaments to go into. It just needs the athletes to go in. Or we got to have a disclaimer. We're recording this before I go over to New South Wales.
I was going to ask you how
did you go?
How'd you go, Mitch?
Yeah, we're pretty good. No, it's I fly out to New South Wales, and the reason why I wanted to do that one first is because going to Turkey for Antalya Premier League, and just wanted to get some match practice, for the year before going over to a Premier League. And I know a lot of the boys over there are going to jump in. Maybe Daniel Thielen from Melbourne is going to come across as well to Sydney. And it's the same thing as an Australian Open or a Nationals. You got the same guys, same people that are fighting. Maybe you don't have the same referees or the same rollout, but essentially it's just fighting 3 minutes with some people that you compete with at the Nationals. So why not jump in and get some rounds in before you go overseas to a big tournament?
Yeah, and I think what we'll be talking about this episode is, regardless of if it leads into a tournament nicely, can we figure out a way where these athletes can travel interstate and compete in these open championships just for the championships? Because a lot of these, well, especially the senior athletes, because they're the ones most likely to travel for this sort of championship, they all work full-time jobs, except for some. But a lot of them
called
That's
out
2 jabs in 2 episodes.
Hey, you got to do it.
He sounded a little bitter there. I have a full-time job, Mitch. Where is yours?
Yeah.
I have just started a full-time
pissed.
job. I'm new into. I haven't had a full-time job like my entire adult life. Yeah, I've worked full-time hours, but in terms of a 9 to 5 for 48 weeks of the year, it is rough.
Sounds disgusting.
It is. Nah.
Really relating with all our listeners with 9 to 5 jobs.
This is a great topic.
Yeah. But I'm gonna take Daniel Thielen for an example, because you
course.
already mentioned him. He's a full-time teacher and he loves his job. He loves the fact that it's a full-time job. I don't know how, but he does. And he can't justify taking time off work to take 2 weeks off to go to a championships and then do some training with the athletes that are a part of that state, which you are doing. So how do we make it so people like Daniel can travel for the weekend and do a tournament?
I think the main thing is like making the already established events worth it, you know? So not saying that they're not worth it, but I'm just saying that when you have more athletes competing in that event, you're more likely to go.
I am saying that it's not worth it. Currently, it is not worth it.
Yeah, right.
Because of the amount of competitors in each event of these open championships and the money that it costs to travel and stay and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so currently it is not worth it. We need to get to a position where it is worth it.
This is the biggest thing I see, where it's like, how do you even get to that point? It's like, it's expensive, right? Even if you're in Melbourne, Sydney, and you choose to drive to the other city, that's like 9-10 hours, I think. That's not, you're trying to talk about someone like Daniel Thielen doing that in a weekend. You're not doing that in a weekend, and good luck for his class on Monday.
His temper's short.
Yeah.
Better not stuff around.
So logistically, the size of Australia makes this really hard. Flights from anywhere, but particularly like we would know from Perth, more expensive, takes more time. So I'm really interested to hear your guys' thoughts, because I think that is just such a huge thing to get past.
But initially, it is a fantastic idea. It's something that we need to get to eventually. It's how and when is what still needs to be decided. But we need to get to a point where people like yourself, people like Daniel, even juniors, maybe in the future.
I've actually had a couple of juniors reach out to me and say, hey, do you reckon I could come over to a Perth comp, maybe do some training? And I was like, absolutely. Like, here's the calendar. Message me if you want to come train. Like, let's do it. You know,
maybe it's even. Do you think it's easier for juniors to do interstate competitions? Because
I think so, because of the level.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that the level isn't there for the juniors. I'm just saying that, you know, the people, there's only a couple of people that are competing at the Premier League Series A level, right? And so they're a lot more spread out. But the people that are competing in the junior categories or coming up through that, I think it is more worth it to travel over, because you've got different kids that are competing in different states you probably wouldn't see all the time at Nationals and Aussie Open. So.
Yeah, it's also easy to justify, because we did it growing up. We all did it. We were in that hotel room studying for the test that you had across the other side of the country on Monday after the tournament. Yeah. We've all done it. But that is easier to justify, taking a bit of time off school but still keeping up with that homework, because it's vitally important, of course, and preparing for those assessments, but taking that time off to get that experience, because you are – this is for the athletes who have decided, I'm on this competitive journey to an end goal, which is the World Championships, and it's winning worlds. It's wherever you set your sights. It's for those athletes.
So these kind of athletes, like, if we put a bit of context, they should really be hitting all their state tournaments.
For sure.
Like, if you're trying to go to a different state for tournaments, you're not doing all your state ones. Like, and then you probably want to already be looking at Open and Nationals. And so then your next step is, how do I make sure I'm cracking into the Australian squad or staying there, or how do I become more competitive? I think, like one of you was saying about tying it in with other events, that may be a good way of doing it. Even if someone only wants to pop over for the weekend, can there be 2 tournaments on a weekend either side? Or
so I'm going to come out. I'm going to come out with my idea first, because I've got an idea that I've been chatting to a few people about. It's like a bit of a fantasy that with the already established local state comps that there are. So we've got the Perth Open. I'm sure you've got the Sydney Open, all that sort of jazz. You create an event, a division that's separate to all the divisions that are currently listed.
We're talking seniors here.
Talking seniors.
Yeah.
So this is how to incentivize seniors, right?
Yeah.
And you make it like a Premier League system, a pool system. So you have 2 sides of the bracket. Like, let's say you've got lightweights, heavyweights, because there's not really that many in each division. So you've got under 75, over 75, or whatever you want to break it. Let's say you've got 6 or 7 or 8 in each category, 4 on each side. They do the round robin, and then you've got your 2 finalists that go into the semi-final, and then but you're creating more matches, so it's much more worth it to come over. You're guaranteed 3 fights, and then you move on to the final, or however you want to split it like that. But you piggyback already onto the established event. You don't create another event just for an open, another version of the Australian Open, you know? So that's my idea. And realistically, it's not that hard to add on, let's say, another hour to an event, or, you know, run it in between. And it also brings a spectacle to those local events. You've got the best in the country, right? Competing in your backyard with all these young kids to watch and their parents to watch.
I think from an organization point of view, that would make a lot of sense in terms of running the event. It's not any extra stress. But how many people are realistically going to come to Perth?
Yeah.
Are you going to get 2 people? Or like, if you want 8?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how much the flights are these days. I haven't flown.
8 males, 8 females.
I guess the main thing is not having it in Perth, first of all, because
Do you want a Perth one?
I do want a Perth one.
For sure.
But we got to start somewhere.
We've got to start where the people are going to go, right? So ideally Melbourne or Sydney, you know, it's a bit easier to come over. Like, I'd definitely go over for that because it can piggyback onto some training or something like that because I don't have a full-time job.
I think Sydney would be perfect because it allows Queensland people, especially the ones who live a bit south. A lot of Queenslanders, I believe they actually live in like northern New South Wales, like right on the border. Maybe don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But so it's a lot closer to Brisbane for them than it is to Sydney, is what I'm trying to say. And they can move south to go to the New South Wales Open, and Victorians can go north, and the odd
a lot more central.
The odd WA person can go over. I think we do need to start somewhere. It's pretty hard to expect. Yeah, right. 2026, we're going to make a goal, and we're going to have 3 tournaments in Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth. 4 tournaments, 1 in Brisbane as well, and they're all going to be elite, and we're all going to have an event. So we need to start somewhere, and I feel like starting with a tournament is a good place. I love that idea, Mitch, and especially if you put it in the middle of the day, put it during lunchtime, so people get a break from competing, and they get to watch what will be a spectacle of that. And you can have 2 tatamis running, so each side of the pool, so you know it's not just one mat, and it makes it elite. I love that idea, but you're still financially,
but how is this possible? Such a big if. Like,
well, here's another layer to incentivize it, right? So if we have our national ranking system, right, and we say we've only got 2 selection criteria competitions, right? This is now a selection criteria comp. You must attend.
Can't do it.
Why not?
Yeah, I don't think you can. What's the chicken and the egg? You can't start with the chicken before the egg or something like that. You've got to get people to come to these tournaments and then say, okay, we're going to make it a national qualifying event. You can't say you need to be at these events because it depends on your selection depends on it. And that just puts people like Daniel Thielen in a near impossible position if they can't make that.
Karate's so expensive. You don't get paid money last time I checked.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then if there's I'd like to hear about
it. Where's the money? There's like, so if it goes from 2 events plus you want to go to some international tournaments, and then now you've got 3 or 4 or 5
national events
opens, like who's affording that?
Well, this is what I'm saying. I'm saying like the reason why I think that we should be able to compete, because an Australian Open and Nationals, I get so much out of that, and everyone does, because the level is actually amazing. The athletes are so talented that we can field teams to be successful at World Championships. And we've got that talent there, but we just don't come together as often as we do, as we should. So why not? If, like, let's say there was another Australian Open, you know, I would probably sacrifice an overseas trip for that because it's cheaper. I get great fights. You know, I know that I'm going to be comfortable in this environment, and maybe it's positioned in a way where it sets me up for the year or something like that, whatever. But I think that we can take, you know, a confident approach into saying that some athletes would take another Australian Open like event over maybe another international Open, because I think that the talent is just as good.
I 100% agree with you. I think it would be One, it'd be a spectacle for the state that's hosting it, and two, it'd be fantastic for the athletes to get that more fight experience within Australia, because, as you said, the level is
we all agree, right? Like getting more fights, getting more competition, and these comps are better. With the Australian Open is better than any of the state comps in the sense that you have everyone's best state fighters, best state kata people. It's just logistically, I can't.
It is hard.
Yeah,
but starting slowly, I think, is like where if it was gonna happen and you want to do one, you want to get a second one, because even one, right, has gone from 2 national level events to 3.
Yeah, and that's a lot.
I did that with the thumb.
See, I'm telling you, it's this one here. It's this one here, not this.
But
anyway,
it's a big ask for people. I always think, like people have to work. Karate is an amateur sport. It has to fit in with everyone's life.
Yeah.
There are some lucky few who don't have to work full time. No, but I mean, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I just I think it's an achievable fantasy, this one.
100%. It is. There's a way to do everything.
Yeah.
And I think the crux of it does come down to money.
Yeah, it's tough.
Like the making it worth it, I feel like that's step one. Make it worth it so athletes want to go and compete in this event. That's step one. Step two is the time off work. How you're going to justify going for just one weekend. If it was lunchtime event, do they have to catch the flight straight after that to go home for work the next day? Do you put it in the morning? Do you put it on the day before? You can't put it on the day before, but there's so many things to consider. So
Nathan hasn't been sleeping a night.
Yeah,
contemplating this.
Well, as you said at the start, you want my idea. This is my idea.
Wait. No, we'll do it after the break.
Okay, that is a good idea.
Because I feel like we're going to dissect the hell out of it. But it's going to be good. Before we do that, though, I did mention ranking system. Is that possible within our competition system? Like, can we establish a ranking system that avoids fight-offs, that avoids the dispute between?
Is it possible? Like, you could definitely put a ranking system in. I think it's very hard to make one fair when 2 or 3 of the cities are very close to each other compared to one like Perth and Adelaide. And so we already said that, maybe this wouldn't work in Perth, or we'd put that in later. That would just automatically disadvantage Perth athletes. Just
purely financial, right?
Financial, time-wise. But you could do one. But I think if you went, this is it and this is what it relies on, then automatically some people have a leg up. It's not.
But we've already had a disadvantage for our whole career.
Yeah, but I don't know if you want to make that worse.
I know, but I'm just saying that, like, both of our selection tournaments are already on the East Coast, besides once every
I think there's ways to
years.
balance it. Like, there are some where it's like you obviously include your nationals and your open, and let's say where there were 4 other of these new tournament ideas, you include your best 2. And so maybe you only have to travel to 1 or 2 and not 4. But there has to be something to kind of balance out the fact that it's not an even playing field.
Yeah.
Yeah. So ranking points, that's step 4. So as I was saying before, step 1.
Step 4.
I'm set. I was on a roll.
Yeah,
okay?
I'm sorry.
I just need to know before the break.
I'm going to say I'm going to interrupt it,
are there any more than 4 steps?
No, there isn't.
Okay.
Because that is the end goal. That's the end goal.
Ruined it.
The end goal is having a system that allows you to impose a ranking system on athletes and requires them to travel to these events. So
I mean, the answer
I'm
to
sort
this
of forgetting
is,
what step 1 was, to be honest.
Pay the athletes. Pay the athletes. Let's find a lot of money.
That's the age-old question, hey?
Yeah.
How do we get paid?
Yeah. So step 1, that's step 3, by the way.
Get paid?
Yeah.
We've ruined it.
You've really ruined it for me. Like, what did you say at the start of the episode, Mitchell?
What?
Nathan's got an idea.
Let's take
and
this
then
break.
Start to talk about
we're going to cool down. We're going to take a little break.
We need to.
And we're going to cool down.
I'm getting heated.
I'll write my apologies and we'll come back fresh. Okay?
Good idea.
All right, we are back and we've had our sidebar meeting.
I've calmed down.
Yeah,
wait, let me check my heart rate. Yeah, I'm 68. I'm calm.
We're good. 68 is still pretty. No, it's okay.
Hey,
we're all good. Hey,
not been training much recently.
No, we have settled our qualms, and Nathan is going to have some uninterrupted time.
Mitchell has granted me that 3 minutes minimum, please. Okay.
Begrudgingly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll pick up where I was before. You've got step one, and that's making it worth it for athletes to travel to these events. That's step one. Step two is finding the time to do it. So for athletes, time off work, when you're going to do it in terms of the tournament day, the morning of the tournament day, so they can travel after, that needs to be decided. Step three, that's money. Financial support for these athletes, because that's the only way it's going to happen. Nobody's going to consistently pay upwards of $1,000 for accommodation and flights and then tournament entry. I mean, I think that's number one. Don't charge interstate competitors, if you want to incentivize this sort of travel. Because especially if they're doing a spectacle for your tournament as well. That's another thing. And then step four, that's when you can impose a ranking system. Because we'd love a ranking system, especially what we talked about last podcast in terms of the fight-offs. A ranking system would eliminate a lot of need for those fight-offs because you've got a clear-cut ranking and you've got more tournaments to base your decision off as well. So those are my 4 steps. They each piggyback on the other, and you can't do step 3 before step 2. You can't do step 4 before step 2. Step 2 needs to happen, but you need step 1 before that. No, you need it. So one more time.
Refresh us.
Make it worth it for the athletes. Time off work, time to do it. Financial support to do it. Then you can impose a ranking system. And I know we can get there. It's just how. Do you want to know my plan for how?
Let's do it.
Yeah. I've been thinking about it a lot over the past week or so. A lot of time into putting the future of Australia priority. I can't figure it out. I cannot figure it out.
Plot twist.
Yeah, that's
like
the
cliffhanger.
Plot twist. I know it's possible. There is a solution here, and it's the reason why it hasn't happened already. I believe there was talks about a ranking system within Australia like 5 years back. I'm talking quite a long time ago. There was definitely talks, at least, maybe not official talks. Well, there's not official talks now, is there? But there were talks about a ranking system, and it's the reason why it hasn't happened. It is because it is so difficult.
Yeah, I think touching on the third point about the financial support, I mean, Jon, you just brought it up before in the break, but a great way to do it is to run a seminar on the piggyback of that tournament or that trip away. So you were saying that Matt Johnson and Shingo Khan.
Yeah. So that they seem to have been organising some great trips between each other, right? And it seems like they must have put in their effort to collaborate on that. I think that's going to require that to get it started. Yeah,
well, last year I was privileged to witness that. I was in Bacchus Marsh at the time. I was staying at the Noble's house. So thank you so much for letting me stay there. It's an amazing time over there training with everyone, and a couple of the national athletes were there training. And Matt Johnson and Shingo Khan, they brought their crew over, a big contingent, and they did the Melbourne Open, or it was a competition. I can't remember which one it was, but they did that. And they trained with Shindo Karate Academy for a week, and they got to also train with the senior athletes of Australia, which was awesome. So we had some fun interacting with those kids. So moments like that, I think really add to the making it worth it. And I think, I'm not sure if this is confirmed or not, but I'm pretty sure some money went towards those kids. I think you can create a seminar where you pay for things, and then they can distribute evenly throughout the participants.
I think that's where, if I see this happening, and I've probably been the most skeptical. That's a mic here. That was me getting so excited.
I thought it was your triangle.
Yeah, that's next episode.
Yeah,
I have to bring one.
You've got to bring one now.
But I think I've been the most skeptical about this. But if I see it happening, I think it won't start or gain momentum from so much a top level official. I think it will be the grassroots, right? And the people just trying to make this, because that sounds worthwhile now. It's like we're going as a trip. That is an experience in itself. There's a whole group of people, and that will take a head of a dojo or maybe a state kind of organization to go, all right, how can we collaborate with the people that they know? Because quite often those young athletes, there were some young athletes traveling, I think, from the photos I saw.
Predominantly just young athletes.
They're not going to have the connections. And so it's like Matt and Wayne have done, like they obviously know each other and have set that up. That's fantastic. And the more that can happen might then roll into something bigger and more official.
Yeah. Just nurturing those relationships that you have. I mean, those people just travel with each other when they were competing and all that sort of stuff. So it's the same like now. We just got to nurture the relationships and keep the communication open. So, you know, if I'm thinking about going over to a competition in Melbourne or in Sydney, just say, hey, guys, I want to enter in this comp. Do you guys want to come over? And then it just builds traction that way. I think the organic getting it off the ground is, like you said, the grassroots where we got to start.
And that's happening more and more now, which is so great to see. I remember a time where it was more, I'm part of a club and I don't want to go to your club and train under you because all of that sort of politics. At the end of the day, yeah, you're up for selection between who you might be versing in these tournaments. But I feel like the Australian athletes, they're setting their sights a little bit higher now in terms of internationally. And internationally, you need to be training with your fellow teammates, even if you're competing a spot together. I mean, you see it in all the European countries. There are some, like France, for example, they might have 10 people who are vying for the same spot, but they train together, they compete together. It's a team and only one of them goes, but they know that one is representing all of them. So I feel like we're slowly getting towards that end of the spectrum, and it's really good to see that.
Yeah. Do you have any more ideas on how we can create a nationwide comp, Jon?
I don't think so. I'm trying to keep up with Nathan's 4 steps.
It's not that complicated if you let me just lay it out there. But no, I got interrupted. And I'm sorry to the listeners. I'm sorry on behalf of Mitchell and behalf of Jon. I'm sorry.
We can't help ourselves.
I think it's been great. You know, I would love to hear from the listeners. I feel like it's always you guys asking, but there'll be some great ideas out there, some crazy ones. And sometimes those are the ones that actually work. And so like hit us up. We can mention it in its podcast. Like if anyone had a better idea than us, and maybe there's a 5-step plan.
There's no more steps. There's no more steps.
That's it.
You don't need another
There's only
step.
4 steps.
Yeah. It's because we can't count beyond 4.
You might not be able to. Sorry, what?
My maths is getting better. I've hired a tutor and we're working together. It's all good. But sweet. Yeah, I think there's not really much more we can talk about around that. We've fantasized enough for one day. But yeah, let us know of your feedback, any questions you'd like to ask. After all, we're an organization for you guys. So send an email at kaizenculture.info@gmail.com and even sign up to our mailing list and be the first to hear about all of the stuff that we're doing this year. Head to our website, kaizenculture.org. Thanks as always.
There's no question for this episode. It's just a triangle emoji. I'm really hoping that there is one that exists.
You've got to
there is a triangle. It might not be the musical triangle, but there's a triangle. Sure. I want triangles in the comments.
Triangles.
Everywhere.
Triangles in the comments.
Yeah.
Setting it up. I really
and at Jon Stainer. Do it. At Kaizen Culture. At Jon Stainer. Please. I want to see it.
Yeah, because we need to rally for this triangle for next episode. Okay. I hope you've been practicing.
I better start.
All right. Thanks, boys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See
boys.
you guys.
Oh, wait. We got to do the outro.
Oh, the outro.